Man, this sticker really does not want to stick. Well, that one did okay. Be very careful. Hello friends, let's install some mud flaps. Okay, you may remember from one of my videos of the, I think it's the second day of the Route 6 overland trip, I had backed up and ripped off that mud flap. Well, I decided I was sick of these generic mud flaps. They didn't stay in very well. So I just pulled them both off, and now I'm replacing them with something fancy and new. So let's see what you got in the package here. First off, you got your 2 sets of mud flaps. Which are very nice. They've got this kind of goop stuff around the outside, which I assume is glue. But that seems fine. I got no problem with that. I know people want to know how flexy they are. I mean, let's see here. I would say they're more flexy than the default ones. Well, they stay a little bit flexed. And let's see, we got a bag of nuts and bolts. I like that they have the rear in the one bag and the front in the other bag. Request for reviews, it looks like. And instructions here. These are actually, I read through them, they're pretty nicely done. It's in black and white, but I can look at that and see exactly what I'm looking at, which is an improvement over some other companies I can name. Let's see, we also got a sticker, and there was a pack of Smarties in there, which my children promptly absconded with. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is take out these 3 screws. Now, notice I only have one. That's because of the mud flap issue that I mentioned earlier. So, easily enough, I can unscrew this. I can't do it with one hand. You'll notice these are actually, I think they're 10mm hex heads though, right? And that makes sense, because while this screwdriver will fit, won't fit there, won't fit there, this is going to come back to us in a minute, but let me get this thing unscrewed first. Alright, and you'd think this would be pretty easy, and it is, it just takes a little bit of thought. So you just take your mud flap and put it over here, and those holes, you have screws, right? Let's take a look at the screws for a minute. Alright, so here's your screw. It's just a screw. Remember we talked about the problem with the screwdriver? And this one, I think especially, way in the back here, because this is actually a long one. It goes a little bit differently. But yeah, that's not going to work with a regular screwdriver. So you really have 2 options, right? You can take off the tire. That'll give you plenty of room. The other option is one of these things. How many of you have these things in your toolbox? You never used them before? Well, congratulations. Today is the day. So let's go ahead and get this set up.
Hey, so I wanted to mention a couple things here really quick. First off, you can also use an angle ratcheting screwdriver. They look like this and are even less common than the manual angle screwdriver. I actually have one I inherited from my step-grandfather-in-law. That's right. But I'll be damned if I could find it, and this would have been my first chance to use the dang thing ever, so that was frustrating. The second thing is I have some thoughts on why Rokblokz went with the standard screw instead of having a hex head. I'm thinking it's anti-theft. These things are not cheap, and living where I live in Eugene, Oregon, with its insane property crime issues where even the things that are bolted down will walk away, I can appreciate any attempt to secure my stuff. Okay, back to the install. Just a quick mention that your screws are going into these plastic clips that hold your inner fender together. Don't over-tighten because you'll break them.
Okay, so what you're going to do here is you got your regular screws with your big fat washers, and they're going to go in there like you'd expect. But then you have this long screw, and what's going to happen is we're going to put this spacer on the back side, and then this screw goes through on the front. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's talk about how the front one goes in here. So it's pretty much the same as before for 2 of them. You just have your screw and your big saucer. But this one's a little bit weird. So the way this works is you stick this plug up into a hole on the bottom of your truck. And then when you screw on this, oh, things are falling down. This is wrong. See, it gets fat. And it'll fill in the hole so it'll be nice and tight. And it'll give you a third point to lock down to. And then, oops. If you are using regular size tires, or at least not giant size tires, you'll use the spacer. And then this mounts there, and the spacer, and then this. So not super complicated, but one thing I would recommend, put this in first, because getting to this screw, if you have this going through, this nut in here, it makes it a bit more complicated than it needs to be. So anyway, let's do that. Okay, so the nice thing here is you actually can access these two screws just by turning your tire so it's facing towards where you want to be. And then we're gonna, let's put this down here. Try not to get motion sick. Oh, that was the wrong direction. So, a hole is right here. It is. Mine's all filled with dirt. That's where that goes in. And then you just tighten this thing down. Which is actually, I mean, this is really roomy if you don't have the tire in the way. And this thing is really not going anywhere. Let's get the bottom one on first. Let's see, this is 7/16. Oops, wrong direction. So, this goes up here. It was in my pocket all along. So for this last one, you are going to need this again. But you can use a ratchet on the back. And this one you can tighten down pretty good. There we go.
So while installing the other side, I figured it would only take me 10 minutes. That's why the camera got ahead of me. Figure 40 minutes for all four.
So that's it. That's the whole process. Is it worth $160 or whatever I paid for it? I like the red. I mean, the flappy ones I had, I think, cost me $20. If I had used bigger screws like they're using for this kit, and if I had used nice fat washers, maybe they would have stayed on when I backed up. But maybe that would have been bad because it would have ripped apart my whole inner fender. So, I don't know. I like them. I think they look cool, and you can get a whole bunch of different colors. So, I don't know. That seems nice. We'll see how they hold up over time. I asked these guys specifically, do the red just turn to pink? Because that would not be as cool. Not that there's anything wrong with pink, but pink and blue isn't nearly as cool as red and blue. And they said they've had them tested. No, that doesn't happen. And keep in mind, these guys are the ones who put the red mud flaps on the Subarus. You know, all the blue Subarus. Yeah, I know I made my truck look like a Subaru. That's fine. Subarus are fine.
So should you buy a pair? I think they look fantastic. They've worked well so far. The people at the company were pretty great to interact with, so I feel good about supporting them. The well-sorted hardware and excellent instructions were a bonus too. The mud flaps for sure make an impression. While I am loath to add anything to the truck just for looks, I do have to admit they turn heads. Would a pair of generic flaps with some upgraded hardware work as well? Maybe. I'm happy with these though and would recommend them.